Hello and welcome. Thank you for participating in Moorhead at Home Skywatching, hosted by Morehead Planetarium and Science Center. My name is Amy Sale. I'm an educator at Moorhead. We are a unit of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, located on campus. We also work throughout the state through a number of outreach initiatives like our summer camp programs, mobile lab vans, and the annual North Carolina Science Festival. Our mission is to help people better understand science, technology, and health, and we do this through engaging learning opportunities like this live virtual event. We're happy to have you here for our program on September Carolina skies, and Nick will tell us more.
Thanks, Amy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Morehead at Home. We hope you're having a great September so far, and we're looking to give you some skills and tips and tricks to be able to enjoy your September sky a little bit better. I don't know about you. I'm excited for when it might be a little less hot outside, so that means it's a great time for stargazing. So we have a number of things to talk about today. If you are a space news connoisseur, somebody who likes to follow space news, you might know that there was some big space news about Venus and Venus's atmosphere that came out just yesterday. We will talk about that, but we're going to try to tie it together with when you can actually see Venus in the sky. So I guess the hint there is that it's pretty late in the evening tonight. So we will get to that kind of towards the end of our program. So if you're joining us for the first time, the way this works is we like to share our screen and use some Planetarium software, kind of like flat screen Planetarium software, to take you through a night. So the software we're going to use today is called Stellarium. You could find it at stellarium.org. That is in the chat there for you. We always put this in the chat because it is a free software. It's open source. That means on most devices that you have, you could download this and try it out yourselves. So we love to use it, and I would gladly give them a shout out because it's a really fun thing to kind of play around with. So maybe after the program, you can download that and try it out yourselves. For now, I'm going to share my version of Stellarium and kind of get us oriented to what this sky looks like. So this is the sky as of right now, and I know it's right now because our clock down here says 10:03 a.m. on the 15th of September 2020. This is the sky right now from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So that's an important thing to remember. Depending on where you are on the Earth or in the United States, your view of the sky might be a little bit different. So again, we're referencing a North Carolina sky, but we'll talk a little bit about what might be different depending on where you are. One more thing before we dive into it to orient you to is the sky itself. You notice there's kind of this big blue area and then a curved line between the sky and the ground. We call that the horizon. So along our horizon here in Stellarium, you might see big red letters. E over here on our left, S over here in front of us, W over here on our right. Those are our cardinal directions. So east, south, west. You might even see an SW right here for southwest or an SE right here for southeast. That orients us to where we're facing. And that is super duper important for when you're outside stargazing. Helps you know what all of those patterns around you should be. So keep that in mind. We will actually change our view so we can see the north at some point in this. But with all of that orientation out of the way, I know I breezed right through it. I don't know about you, Amy. I notice a couple of things in the sky already.
Yeah, I see. Well, I see one thing that's labeled as the moon, although, Nick, I was just outside walking and I did not notice it. It's a very thin crescent, not very much of it illuminated, so it's going to be hard to spot, but it is up in the sky right now. And I see a really bright star. I don't know about you. I bet everybody sees that is the sun, of course, our daytime star. And if we want to see any other stars, we're going to have to get that star below the horizon so we can see the others. Oh, Nick, looks like you're doing some time travel.
Exactly. You might notice that clock has sped up. So I'm moving us forward in time. In the real world, you usually have to wait every second for that to happen.
So the sun looks like it's moving across the sky. And of course, what happens in reality is that we live on a spinning planet, Earth. And that's what makes the sun look like it's moving across the sky, and the moon and the stars other than the sun and the planets all move across the sky. And oh, it's getting dark. What time is it now?
This is just before 8:30 p.m. So one other thing I guess I didn't orient you to, this clock might look a little different than the clock you have on your phone or your watch. It is a 24-hour clock, or what some folks call military time. So it says 2027. That means it's 8:27 p.m.
Okay, and you all might notice there's some objects that are labeled, including a couple of bright planets. But we want to talk about something that you might not be seeing right now. So we have a question for you. And give us your best guess. Don't worry if you don't know the answer, just give your best try. And the question is, why aren't we seeing the moon in tonight's evening sky? And let's see, your options are because the moon is blocked by trees, because the moon is shy, because the moon set just before the sunset, or maybe you think this question doesn't make sense. Isn't the moon always in the sky at night? So give us your best guess. We know that some of you are probably watching with other people. So if you need a moment to discuss. And Nick, maybe while people are answering that question, we can tell them how they can ask us questions.
Yeah, great point. So, as you can tell, you can't turn your videos on, you can't turn your audio on, but we want to hear from you. The best way to get us questions is to use the Q&A function on your screen. If you're on a computer, it should be at the bottom of your screen, and if you're on your phone, I think it's at the top. That way, if you think of something during the presentation that you want to ask, just type it in there, and we'll try to take some time at the end to answer those.
Okay, so give us your best shot. Okay, looks about 2/3 of you got it. Yes, it's because the moon set just before the sun set. And sometimes you can't see the moon because it actually is blocked by trees. And then that's actually a common misconception that the moon is not always in the sky at night. So in fact, the moon is sometimes in the sky at night, but not always. It depends on where the moon is in its orbit around Earth. In other words, what phase it is. So why don't we take a closer look at the moon? So it's not actually in the sky right now, even though it's nighttime. Can we, maybe Nick, could we do a different kind of time travel?
Yeah, so just a moment ago, we moved forward in the night on the same day. In Stellarium, we also have the ability to move one day at a time into the future. So imagine you're standing in the same spot in your backyard, looking towards the south, and it's 24 hours later. That's what we're about to do. So keep your eye on the date here. We're going to move from the 15th to the 16th to the 17th to the 18th. And notice how the sky starts to change, and keep your eyes peeled for the moon. Okay, are we ready, Amy?
Okay, I'm ready. Let's jump 24 hours in the future, September 16th. See if you noticed. Oh, did you? I noticed, I didn't see the moon appear, but I did notice something else.
It looked like everything jumped just a little bit.
Yeah, so the stars rise and set on average 4 minutes earlier each night.
Okay, so we're going to notice the stars kind of jumping a little bit. All right, that's good to know. Let's go to the 17th, huh?
Okay, let's do it. Oh, so the stars kind of jumped again. What about but I still don't see a moon.
Me neither. This is the 18th. Okay. 19th.
Oh, I see something very low in the west southwest. So between the W and between the SW and W.
Let's go one more day. Okay.
Oh, now that's easier to see. Okay. So what day is it now? September 20th. Okay. So what do you all think will happen if we go from September 20th, which is what we're showing you right now, to September 21st? Make a prediction. What do you think will happen? Let's find out. Oh, the moon's in a different, so the moon is noticeably moving from day to day. 22nd, September 23rd. Oh, look at that. Looks like it's close to Jupiter on the 24th. And then,
yeah, and remember, y'all, it appears close to Jupiter in the sky. I think sometimes when they're really close together like that, you would think that they're right next to each other, but that kind of has to do with our point of view. But I think it's a really cool conjunction. All right, so this is the 24th.
oh, yeah, it looks like it's close to Saturn. And of course, it's not in reality, nowhere close to Saturn. The moon is much closer to Earth than Saturn is. And then the 26th, it moves on. So September 24th and 25th, I would definitely take a look there for the moon looking like it's close to those planets. That'll be a striking sight, especially when it's close to Jupiter. Jupiter's really bright.
So you might have even been able to notice in this view, it kind of looks like we have a different amount of the moon lit up from our point of view from night to night. But I think, Amy, we wanted to try to see that even closer up.
Yeah, so right, we were just noticing how the moon appears to move from day to day, night to night against the background of the stars and the planets. But I also mentioned the phase is always changing. Maybe we could zoom in.
Yeah, let's zoom in. Again, this is the 20th of
Okay.
September, not tonight. And that's important because at this time tonight, you're not going to see the moon in the sky. So we wanted to time travel a little bit so that we could get an up close view.
Okay.
Okay.
So this
So
is a few days from now. And that phase to me looks like crescent, looks like a waxing crescent. Waxing means getting more and more lit up, which we'll notice that in a moment. And crescent is that shape. Kind of looks like a smile or a banana, the part that's illuminated, the part that's lit up.
okay. Yeah, it definitely looks like a crescent to me right now, but let's move forward a couple of days. See how it changes. So here we go. Here's the 21st.
Oh, now it's so waxing, so more lit up than it was the day before.
Okay.
What's next?
This is the 22nd.
22nd, okay.
It looks like even more.
Oh, look at that. So it's about half lit up. And weirdly enough, if you know your fractions, then the technical name of the moon when it looks like this is not half moon, but first quarter. And that's because it's 1/4 or 1/4 of the way in its orbit around Earth. So the moon is always orbiting or going around Earth. Okay, and as it orbits, more and more of the side that we see is being illuminated by the sun, waxing gibbous. Gibbous is that shape that's more than half lit, but not fully lit. It looks like it's just about full moon now, and then it'll start waning or looking like it's less and less illuminated after this.
Yeah, and we've moved all the way into October here.
Oh,
So
what I saw for just a moment, it looked like the moon was going to pass right by Mars. So that's kind of fun.
It's October 2nd, but we'll talk about that in October, Carolina skies.
Okay, yeah, now we know we have something fun to look forward to.
So all this being told, this is a view of the moon you wouldn't usually get because you don't get to jump one day forward in time. But I think it really helps us understand that phase a little bit better because it's pretty obvious over the course of a few days that we can see more of the moon lit up. Okay, well, let's go back to tonight's sky, right, Amy? Because we did want to talk about a couple of constellations as well.
Yeah, we wanted to start showing you all some stars and patterns of stars. And could we first start out with swinging north, which is a view we can't really see well right now.
Yeah, so in Stellarium, it's as easy as this. You just click and drag. You notice that I'm swinging us around so that we have a different view of the sky.
I feel like I just turned around.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're just turning around. So now in is right in front of us for north, west will be on our left, east will be on our right.
And we have a question for you all, so get ready. We're going to ask you a question, and we're going to show you how to find the North Star. But we first want to give you a statement that we hear people say a lot, and we want to ask you if it's true or false. So the statement that we often hear people say, the North Star is the brightest star in the night sky. Is that true or is that false? Give us your best guess. Feel free to discuss that with anybody with you. Again, don't worry if you don't know the answer. It's okay. We're here to learn. And
I'll give you a hint. The North Star is in your picture right now. It is up in the sky.
And you might remember we said earlier that Stellarium marks brighter stars with bigger dots. Oh, we've had close to an even split there. Some people thought maybe that was true. Some people thought maybe that was false. And Nick, I'm guessing what the people who said true some of them might have been looking at that star Vega because it's very bright. It's a label in Stellarium, it's so bright. And it's got a big dot. The big dot is just what Stellarium does to mark a star as being brighter. And it kind of looks like it's in the north. I will tell you though, technically Arcturus is brighter and it is definitely not in the north. So in fact, the North Star, it's not famous for being bright because it's not actually that bright. The North Star is called that because it's in the north. It's actually close to number 50 on the list of bright stars. So you need a method to find the North Star, because you can't just look around for the brightest star in the sky, because that will not help you find north. So Nick, I know we've got a couple of favorite methods. Which one do you want to show?
You know, since we moved around to the north, I think we ought to find the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper is usually my favorite method of finding the North Star. And right now it's above the horizon. And to us, it kind of looks like a big soup spoon that you dip into a pot of soup. And as far as connecting the dots in the sky goes, it's 7 bright stars. The shape is made of 7 bright stars. And I'm going to go ahead and outline them for you. There's one right here, 2, 3 in the handle, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the bowl. And I'll see if I can bring up an outline here. I've clicked on one star in particular. This one's called Doobie. That'll be important for us in just a minute, actually. But you notice that you can see this dipper shape now, but that's not all of the dots that are connected together. So the Big Dipper itself is part of a larger constellation. This larger constellation is called Ursa Major. And if you were to use your imagination, as we do sometimes in the sky, you might be able to see a big bear with its face covered up by a tree, in this case. Ursa Major is supposed to be a big bear. That is often confusing to folks because I don't know about you. I've never seen a big bear with a long tail. Usually they have little stubby tails. There's a story, by the way, as to how Ursa Major got that big long tail, but we don't have time for it right now, unfortunately. But, you know, if you think of this as a soup spoon or a bear or a squirrel or a brontosaurus, whatever helps you remember, this shape is really helpful for us in finding our way to the North Star. So how would we do that, Amy? If we find this Big Dipper, how do we get to the North Star?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the side of the bowl that's farthest away from the tip of the handle. And you've already pointed out one of the 2 stars on that side. And then there's the other one. So that's Merak. And then at the bottom of the bowl, and then at the top of the bowl is Doobie. And if you draw a line from Merak to Doobie, and then just keep going, and I like to go Doobie, 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 Doo. And that takes you to Polaris, which is the North Star. And Nick, it looks to me like that star is right over that red letter N that you will not see in the real sky, but it really is true north. You just sort of find that star and then draw the shortest line down to the horizon. And if there were a red letter N on the horizon, that's where it would be.
Yeah, and you can even see, I'm moving us forward in time just a little bit. I don't want to get us too late because we have a couple of other things to show you, but you notice that as we move through the night, for the most part, this stays right over north. If you're drawing a line down to the horizon from other stars, you might get a little mixed up. But we call these stars and constellations that are right around the North Star circumpolar constellations or circumpolar stars. And that's because our Earth is rotating, and our Earth's axis, the North Pole of our Earth, the tilted axis of our Earth, is pointed right at this star. So as we rotate, it looks a lot like all of those other stars rotate around us, but the North Star, or Polaris, appears to stay in the same place.
Oh, how convenient is that? So the North Star is like a pivot point in the sky. It will stay at the same place all day, all night, all year. Throughout your lifetime, this will be a good North Star. So it's worth learning how to find it. And it also looks like it's the tip of the Little Dipper or the Little Bear, Ursa Minor. 2 bears with crazy long tails in the sky.
Yeah, so that's a good way to kind of make yourself a compass with the sky. You could try it tonight. There are a number of other things to find as well. Hopefully you'll be able to use the Dipper to find the North Star, but I know we wanted to look at some things in the south, didn't we, Amy?
Yeah, can we imagine that we're turning around all the way around?
Yeah, and I did that really fast. It was kind of like a really fast spin. But now we're facing south, and you see why we had to change the view to see the Dippers, because I don't see them on the screen at all. Just for your reference, they're up there in the sky. We just can't see them right now.
Oh, they're just sort of like behind us. Okay, got it.
Okay, well, we've moved to about 10 p.m. I know that's past bedtime for some of us, but I think this is when some of the really interesting stuff tonight starts to happen. We will talk about the planets. I know there's 3 of them labeled now, but let's give folks one other set of constellations, or a handful more constellations, so that they can have some benchmarks in the sky. I see that bright star Vega. I'm kind of curious what that's a part of.
Yeah, Vega, part of Lyra the lyre or the harp, although it doesn't takes a lot of imagination to see a harp maybe. And I'm also noticing two pretty bright stars in that same vicinity. And what shape do y'all see there? What shape do you see, Nick? Looks
It
to
has
me like
three
a
sides.
pizza
That means I
slice.
see three vertices, which means that's a triangle.
Yeah, and the season right now still is summer, technically, astronomically speaking. It is still summer, so it is called the Summer Triangle, and it is very nicely visible throughout September, and actually throughout the fall as well. They should probably rename this the Summer Fall Triangle. Can we quickly see the constellations that the other two stars are part of?
Yeah,
Deneb, part of Cygnus the Swan. In the last session on September, was that just September 8th? We told a story about that swan.
we did.
And then Altair is part of Aquila the Eagle. And so look for those three stars tonight if it's clear where you live, if you're out after it gets dark. So we're showing you the sky at after 10 p.m., but as soon as the sky gets dark, you'll be able to see these stars. They're very bright. Okay, do we have time for a couple more constellations? I see something interesting near, that looks like it's near Jupiter.
Yeah, I think we should point that one out because as we move through the summer into the fall, you might not see it quite as well. What Amy sees is a really neat little grouping of stars right here that to me kind of looks like a teapot. Maybe you see a small handle and a little triangle lid. Maybe another triangle for the spout and a flat base. And you can tell that the tea is ready from the teapot because of all the steam.
And that's actually the Milky Way.
It's actually the Milky Way. But this teapot, kind of like the Big Dipper, is part of something larger. Sometimes you have to find kind of like the easy shape before you can connect the dots to the rest of everything else. This teapot is actually supposed to represent Sagittarius, the archer. I don't know how you get a half man, half horse with a bow and arrow out of this shape, but more power to the Greeks and Romans for their storytelling abilities.
Yeah, I can only see Sagittarius the teapot. And I actually did see it Sunday night outside in Chapel Hill. Okay, it looks like that the centaur, this archer who's half man, half horse, is aiming at something that it looks like it's mostly below the horizon now.
I think you can barely see it, a really bright reddish orange star, and you notice it brought up part of the shape here, but that bright star, if you catch it before 10 p.m., that's Antares, and it's the heart of the scorpion. But again, at this time of night, it's going to be kind of tough to see.
Yeah, and it is a summer constellation, but we are at the end of summer, and it's really a southern hemisphere constellation. So it's best seen if you're south of the equator. You can see that for places like North Carolina, and we're showing you the sky from North Carolina. It never pops up very high in the sky, so it's always going to be a little challenging to see. And Nick, I don't know about you, but that star you just pointed out, Antares, it looks a little bit reddish, like kind of like Mars. But I can see that it's not Mars because I see Mars over there way in the east.
Yeah, I also see that it's not Mars because that's what its name means. Antares actually means not Mars. I think that connection between how red that looks tricked a lot of people. Maybe they wanted to be really, really sure that we know that even though it looks like Mars, it is not Mars or the rival of Mars.
I love that. That's the best star name ever. Okay, well, I think we're probably ready to talk about planets, and we have a question for you all. Okay, another true false question. Give it your best guess. Planets don't move relative to the stars. Is that true? Is that false? So are planets, basically we're asking you, are planets always in the same position relative to the stars? Are Jupiter and Saturn always going to be close together like that? Is Mars always going to be way away over there? So do the planets move or not relative to the stars and to each other? So planets don't move. Is that true or is that false? Give us your best guess. And then we'll talk about what the right answer is. And this is also something you can observe for yourself if you keep looking. Okay, we had a little bit of a split. In fact, it is false. planets do move relative to the stars and to each other. The word planet actually comes from a Greek term that means wanderer, because the ancient Greeks, among others, noticed that the planets do appear to move. Of course, they rise and set because of Earth's rotation, but they're also moving relative to each other and relative to the background of the stars. And Nick, I think you and I have both been noticing that Saturn and Jupiter have been looking like they're pulling closer together, and they will continue to look like they're pulling close together through the entire fall.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful sight. One thing that you probably notice is that these planets appear very bright. That's a good way to give yourself an idea of whether something is a planet or a star. I also always check to see if it's twinkling. You probably remember the rhyme, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Well, for the most part, planets appear to shine steadily, and stars sometimes appear to flicker or twinkle. So maybe that'll give you a little more success without having these big labels in the sky to tell whether something is a planet or a star. Amy, but I know we have a number of planets to zoom in on. Which one do you want to do first? Do you want to try to zoom in on Jupiter or Saturn?
Yeah, let's take a quick look at Jupiter, maybe.
All right, hold on to your seats. We're going on a space mission, folks.
If you have a telescope at home, take a look. You may see some of Jupiter's moons. Jupiter has 79 confirmed moons. Oh, Nick, I see what looks like a little pimple on Jupiter.
I think that's actually just the shadow of this moon Io.
The shadow of Io. That is really cool. And I was just reading a report that a team of Canadian astronomers has suggested there actually may be not just 79 moons of Jupiter, there actually may be 600 moons of Jupiter. They examined some photos taken a number of years ago by a camera attached to a telescope in Hawaii, and examined a very small part of the area of the sky and discovered a number of what appear to be new moons. And then they extrapolated or made some assumptions about what might be going on in other areas around Jupiter. So that has not been confirmed yet, but I love the idea that Jupiter may have hundreds and hundreds of moons.
Yeah, it's really exciting. You probably notice it is beautiful in color. It has so many of these cloud bands. It's made mostly out of gas and liquid. So what you're seeing here is different densities and different types of gas within this massive planet. So I think it's a beautiful sight. Through a telescope, it probably looks a little more like this, I think. Something like that is what I've seen through, a backyard telescope, but it's still really cool. Even from, the triangle here in North Carolina, you can see some of the detail of the planet. Not like this super up close Hubble Space Telescope view, but still pretty remarkable. Well,
and you don't need a telescope to see it. You do to see the moons, but it'll look very bright in the evening sky. It will grab your attention. And then the dimmer thing near it will be Saturn.
Yeah, and I think we definitely want to zoom in on this as well, because
we're almost out of time, but we can't miss Saturn, because of course it's famous for its rings, and you really will see the rings if you have a telescope. You need to aim it at Saturn sometime.
Yeah, well, I promised y'all we would talk about Venus, but we also have Mars to talk about, so Saturn is going to kind of get the boot right now, unfortunately. Beautiful thing to see through a telescope, and like Amy mentioned, you'll be able to see it without a telescope in your sky as well. Let's move a little bit later in the evening. You notice Mars. Rose, you're going to be seeing it earlier and earlier as we move into this fall. And just for your reference, we're really pulling an all-nighter here. This is about 3 a.m. So you're even seeing some shapes that we often call winter constellations rising. This is Orion's Belt, and Orion the Hunter, and Taurus the Bull. But, you might just have to wait for a month or two before we start focusing on those again. Yeah,
this is not a great time to see Orion unless you're a 3 or 4 in the morning kind of person. But you're going to have to be either somebody who pulls an all-nighter or gets up really early if you want to see Venus. Super, super bright. And can we zoom in? Because there's a new report about something interesting discovered in its clouds.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Well, I definitely encourage y'all to research this a little bit on your own. We read a really cool New York Times article all about it, but the big news yesterday was that astronomers found something called phosphine gas in the clouds of Venus. Venus is a terrestrial planet, means it has a solid surface, but it has a big blanket of clouds around it. A lot of times we talk about that blanket of clouds in the sense that it actually warms up the planet Venus. It traps a lot of heat. But scientists are definitely interested in what's going on in those clouds. So the interesting thing about phosphine gas is that we see it here on Earth a lot of times in an industrial context. We can make it inside an industrial laboratory. And we've also seen it because certain forms of microbial life can produce it. So anaerobic bacteria, things that don't need oxygen, they can produce this phosphine gas. So maybe you can make the connection there as to why this is interesting. If we're seeing a gas that's produced by life on Earth in the clouds of Venus, that leads us to some pretty big thoughts, some pretty big questions. So I will say, if you saw a headline that says, scientists found life on Venus, that is not true. We did not find evidence of life on Venus, but we found a cool molecule that points us in the direction of wanting to explore the atmosphere of Venus more, because it's possible that some life form created this phosphine gas. We just don't know yet. But I think to scientists and to us for sure, it makes us excited, because the more we find out about the chemistry in the atmosphere of Venus, the atmosphere of, say, Saturn's big moon Titan, the atmosphere or subsurface oceans of Europa, the more we know about our solar system in general. So I would just say, it's really great to be excited about this news that there's interesting gas, interesting molecules in the clouds of Venus. But I think the really exciting part is to come as we study more and more about it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Amy.
No, that's great. We're out of time, but we have one final question for you, and then we have two questions you all have asked that I think we can answer really quickly that are really good. You can first tell us how many people are watching right now. That would be really helpful to us for our own data collection. And then, Nick, I don't know if you want to take this moon question. I can take the Moorhead question.
Sure. Yeah. So Jaden asked, the moon's always in the sky, right? It can't just disappear. I think that's a really good point. The moon is always up there, but that doesn't mean you can always see it from where you are on Earth. It kind of depends. And that's what we showed how, we move through every day forward in time. You notice that the moon was kind of in a different spot at that same time as we move forward every day. So you're totally right. The moon doesn't just disappear completely, but depending on where it is in its orbit around the Earth and where we are on the Earth, you might not be able to see it some nights. It just has to do with that cycle of phases of the moon. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense.
Yes, the moon, the sun, they're still out there, even if they're not above the horizon. And then Jameson from Chapel Hill asks, when is Moorhead Planetarium opening again? We are hopeful. We are planning to reopen in mid-October. So check our website, moorheadplanetarium.org, for more information on that as we get closer. And we are so excited about the possibility of being able to see you all in person. So please come see us.
Yeah, we're really excited to show you all of our new exhibits and to be able to show you our dome safely. So yeah, check back. I think that's a great segue, Amy. I know we would sit here and answer questions forever, but we want to encourage y'all who are watching to do some exploration of your own. Feel free to download Stellarium. Go to our website, moreheadplanetarium.org, for more information about our virtual programs and kind of your current space news. We also have social media. So if you're a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram user, or if you like to browse YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. All of these Moorhead at Home sessions are recorded and put on there. If you ever want to go back and check out what the July sky was like or what that SpaceX launch was all about, you can do that, and we encourage you to do it. So feel free to check out all of those things. And I don't know about you, Amy, but I think we got to sign off.
Yeah, bye you all. See you next Tuesday.
See you next time.